All right, kids, so let's do another problem right now. So this problem is, for example, given, given, let's say 5 grades, calculate, calculate the average and tell whether uh, the student has passed or if the student has failed. Okay? Okay? Passed, for example, in the tech is if you have greater or equal to 70, and failed if you have uh, if your grade is less than 70. Okay? Uh, so it's simple. It's pretty simple enough. We're going to give the program 5 grades, and it's going to calculate an average, and it's going to tell us in the end if we passed or if we failed. So let's look at our methodology. First, let's put our black box here. This black box is our program. Okay, so the program has some sort of input, and it gives us some sort of output. Okay, so let's see what variables input and output. So what do we need to input here? Well, we need to input 5 grades, and the output is going to be whether we pass or fail. Okay, so let's figure out what variables we're going to be working with. So variables. Remember that we'll be working with both user-defined, so user variables, and we can also work with internal variables. Normally, internal variables, we'll figure them out once we figure out the logic behind the problem, okay? But the user-defined variables are simple enough. The user-defined variables are going to be 5 grades, okay? So we might need 5 variables, okay? We could have put this in an array, but at this level we won't be working with arrays, so we will need to specify 5 different variables, okay? Because we have 5 different grades, so we need to store all of those grades into different variables, okay? Um, as you can see, we'll make a leaner version of this problem once we have finished, but let's just go with 1 input equals 1 variable right now. So let's define our variables A, B, C, or you know what? Let's make it easier. Let's call them G1 for grade 1, G2 for grade 2, G3 for grade 3, G4, and G5. Okay? These 5 variables are going to be, let's call them integers, okay? We're not dealing with decimal points, integers. Okay? Let's work with integers right now. Internal variables, we still don't know. And output, an output is it's not going to give us a number. It's going to tell us whether this student has passed or failed. Internal, we still don't know how to figure those things out yet. We'll figure them out here in the logical step. So, what do we do? Now, again, put yourselves in the place of a machine. Given 5 grades, how do you calculate the average? Okay, so how do you calculate an average? Well, you would have to add G1 plus G2 plus G3 plus G4 plus G5. You would need to add those 5 numbers up and divide them by 5. This would be your average, right? So, oh, look at this. We figured out another variable. This variable is not going to be shown. It's not going to be shown. Well, at least the problem doesn't tell us to show the grade. It just tells us if we passed or failed. So this will be an internal variable. It's only going to be used internally here. So A is going to be in here. A. Okay. You know what? I'll put it in another color. A like that. Let's put it in blue. So this is an internal variable, our A, our average. And then we're going to, how do we know whether the student has passed or failed? Well, we would say if A is greater or equal to 70, then we can say that the user has passed, okay? If A is less than 70, then we know the user has failed. So right now, we're making one simple decision. This is a simple decision. We're checking whether this thing is 70. If that is true, this is a pass. If this thing is less than 70, it's a fail. As you can see here, this is not a cycle, okay? This is not a cycle because we are only taking one decision based on one data, okay? On one piece of data. So if A is greater than 70, we decide that it's a pass. If it's less than 70, we decide it's a fail, okay? So there's only two outcomes. So with a simple if structure, we can do this thing right now. If A is greater than 70, we pass. If A is less than 70, we fail. Okay? So I'm going to stop here the video so that I can do the PC int version of it. Okay? So see you in a minute.